So he sits down across from his bishop and he lays this situation out and says, is this okay? And his bishop says, according to our faith, you're not doing anything wrong. It's just a really bad idea.
Oh, no, I think you misread it. His bishop said, yeah, if you could give me $50 on the Broncos, I'm in.
This podcast contains the arguably witty banter of two friends, Skippy and Douglas, that like to debate about investing. The content is intended to be entertaining and for informational purposes only, not investment advice. You should do your own research and consult a financial professional before using any of the information in this podcast, and especially before investing.
Skippy and Douglas back in your ear sockets. We took a week off, so we're well rested, you would assume, but probably not because we're just haggard old men. Yet and still, please do send in your listener mail, skippydouglas@gmail.com. We appreciate that. Check us out, skippydouglas.com. Any questions you have about us, you can check it out there. Find those out. Today, we got a few items for you. First, we're going to start off with telling you about Tommy the Car Guy. Then we're going to go into the worst acquisition in corporate history is happening again. Third, grocery stores. What impact do they have on your neighborhood? And then wrap it up with you too, yes, you can be a sucker.
You know, I promise you that Tommy the Car Guy is more exciting than it sounds. I promise.
I know a guy. I know a guy who knows a guy. Is his name Tommy? Yes, obviously his name is Tommy.
This is my favorite thing that I read this week. Wall Street Journal. Here's the title. He earns $1,000 a job, and he's a car dealer's worst nightmare. All right? Walk me through, I think I know, but walk me through your fear, anxiety in walking into a car dealership and making a purchase. I don't think you care at all. You just walk in, say, give me the list price. If anything, add $5,000 on. And then I'm out of there, right?
I believe the last time that I picked up a car, I walked in, I said, here's the kind of car I want. They said, we only have one of them. I said, great, I'll take it. And they said, well, let's go for a test drive. I said, no, like it's either going to work or it's not. I believe it will.
All right, we buy cars differently. I think on this podcast, I've flown across the country to get a good deal, negotiated like crazy. Here's the deal. Everyone hates, the large majority of Americans hate the haggling and dealing with car salesmen. I mean, there's like an entire industry of jokes about dealing with used car salesmen. Okay,
and this is why I handle it that way. Because I'm just like, I don't want all of that. It's not worth all that to me. But
okay, so this guy, Tommy, who runs a YouTube and TikTok channel, because who doesn't at this point? He live streams conversations to more than 500,000 people. Okay? Okay. His entire business model is someone says, hey, Tommy, I want to buy this car, and I want you to get me a deal. He calls up the dealership. He does all the research. He handles the entire negotiation. He, in most cases, saves you a lot more than $1,000. He might save you $4,000 or $5,000. You write him a check for $1,000. Everybody's happy. He's become so popular that often when he calls dealerships, they recognize his voice.
What?
And some of them hang up immediately because they feel like they're going to get taken. Others go, this could be great PR for my dealership, and so I want to be on the other side of this YouTube and this TikTok. And some people even cut him, he negotiates the price down $5,000. They'll cut him another $1,000 just because they're so excited to work with Tommy the Car Guy.
The dealer gives them another $1,000?
Yeah. It's a rare case.
Okay, hold on. But just to be clear, so I'm looking to buy a car.
Yeah.
I call Tommy, flat fee, $1,000 for Tommy to buy this car.
Now, you might think Tommy negotiates 2 or 3 cars a year. Let me tell you, Tommy currently has a team of 5 and is bringing in more than $2 million in revenue yearly. There's huge demand for this. People truly hate negotiating for cars. I may have a second or third career because this sounds like so much fun to me to just call around dealers and yell at them until you get a good price.
So there's 4 figures of people that work with Tommy every year?
That's how you put it? 4 figures of people? I mean, Tommy has a team, right? But
yeah,
he knows the lingo. He's worked at dealerships before. Feels really comfortable with these. If you were going to guess 2 or 3 tips to negotiate a good price for a car, you got anything, Douglas? It's pretty simple stuff.
Be prepared to walk away.
Yeah.
Give them a low offer.
I mean, the main things are get dealers to compete against themselves. and never show up at the dealership, right? So you want 5 dealers competing to sell you the same car, and you don't want kind of the sunk cost of sitting there in their stupid little office, wasting 3 hours as you test drive the thing. You want to call, say, I'm buying this today. I'm extremely motivated. I know the market well. I see that there's 20 of these cars in a 100-mile radius. All these people want to sell it to me, right? You're just taking advantage of like competition across people, and then you're finding the most desperate dealer to sell you the thing. What I really liked about Tommy is there are some cars there's no deals to be had, right?
Okay, continue.
If you're buying the right Lexus right now or the right Toyota minivan, like they're just sold out for months in advance. When you call Tommy and say, I want to buy X car for X price, he goes, you should buy that at the current list price because I can't save you any money. But there are a lot of cases where, again, it just goes back to supply and demand. There's money to be had, and if I didn't like negotiating so much, I would definitely call Tommy.
Do you know, does it mention if there is a database of some sort that Tommy uses that others could get access to? Because either he has a proprietary database that he uses where he like scrapes or whatever and creates it, or there's something like, the MLS that real estate folks have, like something like that he looks at. Otherwise, how does he scale this thing?
I don't think Tommy's the data scientist that you're hoping for. I think he's a car guy. But I can kind of tell you don't shop for cars too much. There is some pretty sophisticated tools with price triggers and watching things. Like even if you use cars.com, that you can effectively favorite a car. It will tell you every time the price drops. It will tell you when the car sells. Like you could get a pretty good idea of the market pretty easily these days, Douglas.
I am so out of the loop on this. Like literally, there's one dealer I go to. I show up there. The first version of the car that my wife likes the color, I say I'm taking that.
I think you might have to use Tommy.
I might have to use Tommy.
We found a potential client. Whereas, like I mentioned I look all over the country, calculate the cost of flights and everything else, and then get the absolute best deal in the United States. And you just show up and point to a color. It's so great.
Slightly different.
What I loved about this, and we can move on, is just people are genius. And there's now someone to do every task that you don't like doing. And the way I like at least the way the Wall Street Journal portrays this is it's a win-win situation. Tommy likes to negotiate for cars. He happens to be good at it. He's going to save you more than $1,000, and he's going to save so many people. Just their stress levels are going to be even throughout this because he's going to go find a good deal, get the car delivered, and be done with it. So my next car, I guess this won't change, but I don't think I'll negotiate at all in person. It will be entirely over the phone and email. You get so much more leverage that way.
Is it because of how stoic you could be over the phone? Like, is there there's like a lack of humanity that exists when you're over the phone, and so it's more, or why does over the phone matter?
Once they get you in the dealership, feels like they have the upper hand because you have you've already invested the time to drive there, to shake hands, to do the stupid test drive, to do all these things that don't matter in the grand. That's where
you've no sunk cost to yourself,
right? Okay. And I know people that even, I don't know that I'd advise this. They'll email like 10 dealerships and they'll make sure it's crystal clear that everyone's in the can see who else was emailed, and they'll say, I'm looking to buy this car with these features for this price, and just see if there's anyone desperate enough to reply back. It's great.
I like your line of, I don't think that Tommy is the data scientist that you're looking for.
I really don't think he is.
All right. I'm going to reach into the fishbowl, and we're going to talk about the worst acquisition in corporate history happening again. I'm basing this off of a Prof G, Scott Galloway article that's basically titled what I just said. And if you have not guessed by now, we are talking about Time Warner, Discovery, whatever the heck the company is called now. And that's part of the point. Over the last 35 years, rough Time / Warner Brothers going back then, because 1989 was the first time they came together. I'll give you a little history after this. But over those 35 years, you take all of these amazing assets that have been brought together so many times and merged and spun off and reassembled, and it's basically destroyed hundreds of $billions in shareholder value. That is what he is mentioning here as to why it's the worst acquisition. The reason why this is important right now is because those following along at home have probably seen the Netflix versus Skydance, Paramount Skydance battle over Time Warner Discovery. $110 billion is roughly about to get spent on this, and it's not the first time. So let's go back to the start. 1989, 1990, you got Time. Remember Time Inc.? Remember Time Life? The essence of humanity is what I remember this as. Time merges with Warner Communications. They form Time Warner. So this was a little over 35 years ago. $14 billion merger. You had Warner Brothers, the great studio, HBO, Warner Music, Time Inc., the magazine of life that I just mentioned, where you get Sports Illustrated, Fortune. These are phenomenal assets come together.
In the 90s, anyway.
Still, Fortune. Still a thing. HBO? Come on now. The rest of it, yeah, is a little bit whatever.
Yeah, whatever.
Anyway,
sure.
Okay. All right. So back then. Then a few years later, Time Warner acquires Turner Broadcasting System, TBS, right? TBS, which you all probably know for showing A Christmas Story for 24 hours a day every year.
I mean, and this allowed Ted Turner to go buy some more land in the West. Great for him.
Very much did. And with this, you get CNN, TNT, TBS, and then all those Turner classic films that we all know and love. 2000, this is when the gumption really takes center stage. AOL and Time Warner come together. I think at the time it was like the largest merger in corporate history, if not it was one of the $165 billion. You get AOL, Time Warner. And the timing of this is so important. It was the peak of the dot-com bubble. So you get AOL, $165 billion, by the way, this is happening. A few years later when AOL was spun off, it was like $3 billion.
Yeah.
Just
same thing
awful.
happened with Yahoo, by the way.
So what do you mean same thing happened with Yahoo?
Well, the valuation went from a very large number to a very small number very rapidly.
I like how you picked out Yahoo. Are you familiar with the dot-com crash? You could pick any stock. You could name it. Same thing. Anyway, so then, as I mentioned, a few years later, they rebrand back to Time Warner from AOL Time Warner. Spin-off AOL didn't really work out so well. 2009, spin-off Time Warner Cable. So they start to really break apart the conglomerate. 2014, they spin off Time Inc., the magazines that everyone knows and loves. Time, People, Sports Illustrated. Yes, put it down right now. I know you're holding it. 2018, AT&T acquires Time Warner for about $85 billion and becomes Warner Media. Just two great giants coming together. Okay, 2022, Warner Media is spun off from AT&T, and then it merges with Discovery, and that gives you what we have today, Warner Brothers Discovery, which is what is being purchased by Paramount Skydance. When you read this history, here's what I think about. How many people made so much money from this that were not the shareholders of this organization?
Well, the shareholders didn't make any money because in a 8-year span, you have the merger between AOL and Time Warner at almost $170 billion, and then 8 years later, you have AOL getting spun off for $3 billion. With the AT&T acquisition, that's originally an $85 billion acquisition. Then when AT&T turns around and sells the thing, is only worth $43 billion. I mean, the value destruction here
is insane.
Is consistent throughout basically every acquisition.
I want to drop some quotes from Prof G because he is so irreverent to the world. It's just awesome to see the things that he puts down in writing. So here's one. He's describing what's happening now. Two drowning men clinging to each other, hoping their combined weight will act as a flotation device. It's so good. Here's another one. He's talking about the current CEO of Warner Brothers Discovery. He says, as an operator, he's Ed Wood, which is not great. As an investment banker, he's Steven Spielberg. That actually is probably a fairly good way to describe this. Like when it comes to the actual operations and what's happening, it's pretty sucky. But he's negotiated this deal in a way that he and his family, I don't know who else, will come out probably on top. And a lot of other people are going to get screwed.
like, I'll keep it simple. The problem here is, one, some weird fits. Like, why did AOL and Time Warner ever think that they fit together? You know, this 35-year history you've given has a lot of that. But the main problem on the finance side is just too much debt.
So much debt. It's exactly right.
All these crazy packages came with a bunch of debt and attitude of, we'll pay for it in the future and our projections are going to be perfect. And then life actually happens. That's exactly what's happening today. I find, in the most respectful way, I find this merger acquisition relatively uninteresting because you just know exactly what's going to happen. And the way it's structured, I don't see a way for there to be kind of home run success. I mean, they might squeak by in the perfect case, but the perfect case doesn't really exist.
No. And you have 35 years of evidence that the perfect case for this exact asset has never existed, which doesn't mean you won't pull it off, but just more reason to not believe it. I didn't check any of these numbers or anything, but I like also in here in Prof G, as he likes to pontificate about things, he mentions how for the same amount of money, roughly, that Paramount is paying for Warner Brothers Discovery, Netflix, if they were to pay that, could just go buy Disney.
Seems more appealing to me.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, do you want Sports Illustrated? No. But it is kind of wild, right? And at the end, Netflix was like, once it went over whatever amount they put in, I think their final offer was like 90 billion, roughly. I think it was something like that. Ended up going for 110 billion. And they just went, nope. Like, there wasn't even if that's what you're going to pay, like, cool. That seems kind of stupid.
And from memory, I think Netflix got $2 billion for their trouble, and
they did.
Their stock price went up 10 or 20% the week they backed out of the deal, which tells you maybe all you need to know about the deal.
It's like, by not taking this deal, they get like another $70 billion. Like, it's pretty phenomenal. This is great. They seem to have orchestrated this quite well. We'll put this on the Substack. Check it out. You want to go to grocery stores?
Yeah, I'm reaching into my fishbowl. This means nothing, but I found to be incredibly interesting. Home Economics did a study of what happens to...
Like your high school class?
Oh, no, it's a think tank. Hold on. Let me get you the exact source.
Home Economics?
Yeah. Now I got to get my sourcing right here.
Yeah.
Homeeconomics.substack.com, and then the true source is the FHFA House Price Index and U.S. SNAP retailer authorizations from 1975 to 2024.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for the full breakdown. I thought it was just Miss Jenkins' class, so great. Anyway, continue.
The question here was, what happens when different real estate stores move into your neighborhood? And would you expect home prices to outperform or underperform? Now, the sample size is huge, and in some cases where, on average, your housing prices underperform the market, there's still several cases where home prices actually went up 30 or 40 or 50%. So don't get too hung up in the logistics. Is this correlation causation? It's all a good debate, roughly. But have you looked at these numbers, Dougals, or can I turn this into a quiz? You've looked at it. All right. So the best predictor, I'm using that word loosely, of home prices going up is Sprouts and Trader Joe's. Not a huge surprise for me, but what is surprising is that the two worst are Walmart and Target.
Yeah.
And the third worst, meaning home prices will go down if they show up, is Dollar General, which makes me think that all dollar stores might predict declining real estate prices, except for the fact that Family Dollar actually tends to see a slight increase in home prices.
Oh, sorry. The comparison to me that I thought maybe this is where you're about to go. If you look at one of the fourth worst on this list is Aldi.
Mm-hmm.
The second best is Trader Joe's, which are the same place. Not exactly. But basically,
I disagree with that take.
And then you have the Family Dollar, Dollar General comparison, which are on opposite sides. So it's not the category, I would say.
No,
that drives it.
To me, it kind of seems like gibberish. Like, again, and if you would have quizzed me, I would have thought Costco might have a might be slightly better than Sam's Club,
neutral.
But Sam's Club tends to be in neighborhoods where real estate prices are more rapidly rising.
I do wonder, I'm not getting caught up in the correlation causation in the way that you warned me against. I'm going to do my best there. But I do wonder there must actually be something to this, whether it's that these are the places that find the neighborhoods that have rapid home prices, like they are real estate investors.
Mm-hmm.
Is that it? Or is it just coin flips effectively and it just is what it is, or what?
I'm really sad that Whole Foods is not on the list because Whole Foods has been speculated to be on the top end with Trader Joe's and Sprouts in previous analyses I've seen. This has me concerned. I know you're a Target shareholder over there. This has me concerned about Target strategy. So, Dougals, if you look at that specific portion of the graph, Target has more zip codes that went down more than 40% in the 3 years after their opening than any other place on the list, and probably all the other places on the list combined. Target appears to have done a really poor job with like 10 metro areas. If you take those out of the subset, I think Target actually looks pretty good, or at least average on this list. So who is shopping for their real estate? Because they just appear to have missed the boat completely.
And when you think about who their target customer is, like they've done a poor job of figuring out from this chart, figuring out their target customer and the types of neighborhoods of the target customer, who they say their target customer would be and where they would be. That's a compounding set of poor decisions and almost nothing on the top end for them. Like they haven't even gotten lucky on the top end.
No, not at all.
Seems like, yeah.
And then Trader Joe's is almost the exact opposite, where Trader Joe's has, again, correlation causation, I don't know, but many of the metro areas of the subset have grown more than 40% with the combination of Trader Joe's appearing. That is home run hitting in the real estate space. I mean, it's kind of crazy. Their strategy seems to work well.
When the Target CEO pulls in the person that chooses their real estate and says, "I'm sorry, today is your last day," and they go, "Give me any reason," and they just show the comparison between Target and Dollar General, like, need I say more? Like, no words. There are no words. This is for cause. Your severance agreement is nullified.
So good. That's it. I find real estate fascinating.
All right. Reach into the fishbowl to talk about this Atlantic piece called Sucker. Brief overview. Gentleman, what's his name? Coppins McKay? McKay Coppins? Let me get this guy's
Coppins.
name.
Coppins McKay is a cool name, though.
Yeah. McKay Coppins, of the Mormon faith. And the reason that's important for this piece is because in the Mormon faith, gambling is not okay.
The funniest thing about this piece is he goes to his editors, "I'm kind of thinking about this idea." Or maybe his editors come to him and say, "We're kind of thinking about this idea." And he goes, "I'm not allowed to gamble." And then they brainstorm together and he goes, "Well, what if we gave you $10K?"
Yeah. So you're not gambling.
And he's like, "Yeah, I think so. Yep, there we go.
Yeah.
Nice loophole."
And then he says, "I'm not just going to rely upon the Atlantic editors. I'm going to go to my bishop." So he sits down across from his bishop and he lays the situation out and says, "Is this okay?" And his bishop says effectively, "According to our faith, you're not doing anything wrong. It's just a really bad idea."
Oh, no, I think you misread it. His bishop said, "Yeah, if you could give me $50 on the Broncos, I'm in."
You have a problem. Okay, so the idea is he's going to write a piece about gambling in America. We've discussed a few times on the pod of what's happening, people, the increase in gambling, et cetera. And when he goes to write the piece, he says, "But it'd probably be good if I have some firsthand knowledge of it." So that's how the whole thing starts that we just discussed. So the Atlantic gives him $10,000 for him to go gamble, and any losses they'll cover. Any wins, they split 50-50. That's the agreement. So that the idea of that is to give him some skin in the game, so to speak. Like he's emotionally invested if he can keep some of the winnings. So it begins. And the first time it happens, he said he sneaks away after the dinner table, goes into his office, locks the door because he's trying to hide. And then he downloads his DraftKings app and it begins. Harmless. After that first little gambling bit, he wins a little bit of money, like $20. He ends up $20. And then he extrapolates that and says, "Okay, if I do this another 250, 300 times, I got 10,000, 20,000.
At this point, I can tell the dude's never gambled before. Like, yeah, if I just win $20 on every bet, things are going to be great.
Yeah. So I love that he, after a couple weeks, he gets in touch with Nate Silver. Because Nate Silver, statistician of the country, right? The statistician laureate of the United States. And he says, I know you've won hundreds of thousands of dollars gambling. So like, I would like to talk to you about this. Like, what should I expect, etc. Nate Silver says, yeah, I'm going to give you some tips. He gave him some tips so you can get out of amateur world. And I think if you end up winning a penny, you should consider that to be a victory.
You'll be in the 98th percentile.
Exactly.
I mean, that's basically the stat, right? If you don't lose money, you're in the top 2% of gamblers, which maybe tells you all you need to know. Like, I did not need to write this article because I kind of already put that together. But
yeah, the guy's like, hold on, you've won hundreds of thousands of dollars, so why are you saying that's good? And he goes, oh, I didn't do that in sports betting. I play poker. It's like that is a difference. One thing that I knew in my brains, but just reading it here, like really made it click, was how quickly the legalization of gambling happened after it had been ridiculed and ostracized for so very long.
Mm-hmm.
Throughout U.S. history, sports betting was like either banned or at a minimum highly discouraged. If you could go to Vegas in the United States. You can go to Vegas, you can do your sports betting, but that was it.
Well, Atlantic City too.
Oh, sorry.
Correct?
Yes. Yeah. And New Jersey, because they have Atlantic City, you had Chris Christie, who's the governor of New Jersey. He said, we're going to increase the ability for people to be able to gamble in sports betting. And it went to the Supreme Court. He got some pushback. I'll skip all those details. This is in 2018. It goes to the Supreme Court. And the Supreme Court says, this is actually up to the states. Because there was a federal ban. The Supreme Court goes, it's up to the states. It just should not be a federal ban. And then states started rapidly legalizing betting. So it went from decades, hundreds of thousands of years even, in U.S. history, of this is not okay, to overnight it becomes something that people could have in their pockets as the apps started building out.
Did you say hundreds of thousands of years of U.S. history? Because wow.
Yeah, I know. Hundreds of thousands of years. You gotta really like spruce up your U.S.
Hammer
history.
that point home. All right.
But anyway, no. So it goes from really like decades where it was clear, I would say, that this was a thing that was not okay in the country, to nearly overnight it becomes this huge industry. And we've talked about the growth of it in the past. We don't have to cover that here. But that point is so important. To go back to this article, and I'm going to combine in what he does to bring home the point I just mentioned with this one man's journey. I'll skip all the detail in the middle. You can read the piece yourself. But basically what happens is he slides into the dark side. So when I mentioned that he like locked himself in his office at the beginning to download the DraftKings because he didn't want this to be affecting the family, by the end of this, his 10-year-old is like, wait, is that a money line bet or are you taking the spread?
Yeah. He's checking his bets at church. I mean, typical behavior here.
It's all the things, to your point. It's all the things that you go, yep, that's what happens. That's what happens.
It's so predictable.
That's what happens. That's what happens.
So predictable.
Yep. And so that's what ends up happening to this guy. And so one of the things that he covers is he says, for those that become, I can't remember the terminology, but those that become really addicted, like it is a serious problem. He says it's a relatively small percentage, estimated, like 4 to 5%, something like that, of people. And that was a low absolute number of people if you go back a decade ago. But now when you increase the denominator so much, like when anybody can now access sports betting in their phones, you still maybe only end up having the 4 to 5%. Maybe it's a little bit higher, but now that's millions of people. And this is the point that he was trying to make in the article. So a man of faith gets taken down. That means millions of people can get taken down.
Let's get to the stats. In a year, he gambled over $33,000, lost $9,891.
Yeah.
That is so impressive. Like, to lose that much money is incredibly impressive. And to kind of make your family, to irritate your family about this, to be sneaking off into dark corners. And then he ends the article, probably to be dramatic, but by self-registering him
Yep.
to be excluded from the right to gamble in his state because he feels like he has an addiction. I mean, I felt bad for him and his editors through this whole thing. It feels like the guy tortured himself for 12 months simply to write something that, in my eyes, was pretty likely to happen. No one's ever been like, oh, you know when my life really turned around? When I started gambling. That was the ticket for me.
The real question that was not answered in here, how much did the bishop pull out?
I mean, yeah, I'm sure a lot. I'm sure he did well.
Yeah. I mean, and I don't even mean from you were joking about that Broncos bet. The tithings alone to the church probably went up just after this because, like, you were the wise person from the get-go.
That said, this is cool. We're good to go.
Yeah, let's go. So, Bishop, here's the situation. LFG, baby. LFG.
I'll apologize for the joking tone. I don't know what else to do here. It's I haven't seen much good come of this. I thought the article was good. I will try and find the piece for our listeners on the Substack, but within the past 6 months, I read a similar breakdown, and it's probably in the Atlantic or the New Yorker, one of those, about the pitch for Atlantic City as a gambling hub. This is 20, 30, 50 years ago, right? And how the Atlantic City was a fairly desirable place to visit before the casinos show up.
Oh, was it
right?
like when the horses were jumping off? Was that Atlantic City, or am I thinking of
I don't know.
else?
But the pitch was, we're going to come in. This is going to be Vegas of the East or whatever. And this town, we're going to have so many jobs that you won't even know what to do with it. And then they contrast that with what it looks like today and how basically the entire city has eroded and is where there's casinos and then there's slums almost. I'm sure they were being dramatic. But someone show me some real life evidence of when sports betting shows up and the community gets better. Just not sure it exists.
I can't offer you that example. I don't know. What I have done, I think I've told you this in the past, is I've taken my Monopoly properties and gone around Atlantic City and justified the prices. Like Baltic Avenue is horrible. It's a horrible street, relatively speaking. So it's real. Monopoly's real.
Wait, is Park Place in Atlantic City?
They're all in Monopoly is Atlantic City.
Gosh, I did not know this.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah. I used to go to Atlantic City back in the 90s, a decent amount. So I got quite familiar with that city. I'm sure it's not any better off now. All right, you got anything else?
No, that's it. So listener mail, skippydougals.com. If you want to support the show, you can grab a premium subscription and get the show early. skippydougals.supercast.com. And we'll see you next week.
Thank you.